Oh, I didn't see you there. You expecting season 2 of Passionate People and Preposterous Beefs? Okay, well, might get around to that. Like right about now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike. Welcome to the second season. But before you get too sucked in to this awesome interview and this great new epic season in front of us, do us both a favor and like, subscribe, and share this amazing piece of entertainment. Because I am here with the one, the only, MARC CALDERARO! Say hello, Mark.
Oh, hi. Thanks for having me so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. How are we doing on this fine Tuesday midday?
Oh, it's all right, just studying for the Texas bar exam. So you are giving me a welcome reprieve from,
nice.
Just reading law outlines. Thanks. Thank you. I really appreciate it. You've saved me.
Well, I might have saved you from the law exam, but I can't save you from delivering your favorite knock-knock joke.
Oh, right now we're starting off with that one? Okay.
Starting off with the hard hitters.
All right. Okay, I got it. All right, you ready? All right.
I'm ready.
I love this one. It's really good, but it's a little different. So you have to start. All right.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Me? I don't know.
Yep,
Isaac?
that's it. Nope, that's the joke. That's it. That's the joke. That's all. That's the best I got, man. I'm sure you.
I feel like I'm the joke now. I don't know if I'm okay with
it. Yeah. Sorry, man. Sometimes knock knock jokes have been around for like 140 years. To make something new, you really gotta futz with it. Futz with the format.
I really hope they're only that old. That would be like so satisfying to me. Is that like doors existed for hundreds of years, and like it was only until like basically the doorbell had been invented that people were like, you know what? Like came up with a knock knock joke.
Well, I know that knock knock jokes became like really popular around the turn of the century. Like they were like they were like the parlor game you would do. Like when you would have people into your posh living room or whatever, you guys would sit around and tell different knock knock jokes that you've heard. So I'm sure they're older than that, but that's why we have them now, is because they were like very fashionable in like the early 1900s. Yeah.
You don't see that in any of those like old like Bridgerton or any like movies about like the turn of the century though. That's so sad. Like they were that popular and yet it's never in any old fiction that has been brought to the screen. That's kind of funny.
I think it's kind of like the bee's knees or whatever, that we recognize that it's like not cool. So it's kind of chuggy or whatever. Knock knock jokes are kind of chuggy. I really
hope that comes around. Yeah, like it's like one of those things. It's kind of like. So one of my dad's favorite like hip phrases from back when he was a kid was like referring to something as boss if it was like really cool. It's like that's so cool, and like it's old, but like I feel like it's on the edge of like becoming retro popular again. And I really hope like the knock knock joke gets that kind of love.
I would love the idea that some stand-up comedian like just totally unironically just comes out and just does a set of knock jokes. Yeah, just like
just 50 minutes of knock
just
jokes.
Bangers, just knock bangers. And just blows everybody's socks off. Yeah.
I mean, there are people that are famous for doing one-liners. There's some British comedian that's all he does, and he has like I think the record for the amount of one-liners in like an hour or something like that, because he just like knocks them out of the park.
Yeah, that kind of Rodney Dangerfield style of just like knowing them all, man. Just line them up and knocking them down.
Speaking of Rodney Dangerfield, he had plenty of good movies that would potentially fit this next question for you.
Nice segue. Wow.
I'm trying. I'm getting it into second gear already.
That's a season 2 segue. That's not a season 1 segue.
That's the difference between season 1 and season 2 of Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. So what would you say is your best first date movie that you'd recommend? Or if you can't come up with one, what was your first date movie? I guess it should be, what was your first date movie?
Okay, yeah. No, I understand. So I'll answer something that's like not something that was in the theater, at the time that I went on my first date, because I'm sure I went to, you know, whatever, OG Spider-Man or something like that. But, you know, a friend of mine who shall remain nameless, he was a bit of a Lothario. He was a very smart guy, you know, and he knew how to date women. And our mutual friends, our women mutual friends, discovered that he had a, like, first date, second date, third date movie, you know, like line up to like line them up and knock them down, you know, and movie one was always Amelie. And
gotta show that he's like worldly.
Which, I mean, look, I mean, we can mock him for all he wants for like kind of coming up with like systematizing it, but like Amelie is an incredible first date movie.
Oh yeah, it's an incredible movie. It also does weed out the people that are going to be like that has like a really polarizing result too, right? Yep. Like you get the people that are like, you know, entranced by your, you know, knowledge of the world and a French film and all this stuff, and then you have a bunch of people who are like, this guy's weird. I'm just like, it's gonna leave, and so you're gonna have like a strong like snap off there. It's not a tepid movie. Like, so you're going to get results based upon this choice that you've made. So, that's pretty big thinking.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with him on that one. I do think, like, when I heard that from him, I was like, oh, I wish I'd come up with that, you know. Yeah. So what else you got for me? What else? Come on, bring him on.
Hit me.
Yeah, I'm here.
What is your favorite thing? Nice.
Thank you.
What is your favorite thing that you have to force yourself to do?
Oh, the answer is exercise. I mean, I'm sure everyone says that, but
I'm gonna create an addendum because that is going to be everybody's answer.
Okay, then
what is your favorite non-exercise thing that you have to force yourself to do?
Okay, I got a real one. My favorite thing in the world to do, is to sit down and watch movies. But as life goes on, you end up prioritizing other things, and I will find myself going like 2 weeks without just sitting down in front of my gigantic TV that I purchased because I worked as a movie critic for 10 years and worked in the film industry for years, and then like still not watching movies. So the idea that I will just like force myself, I'll like tell my wife, I'm just like, you know what? I'm not putting the kid to bed tonight. I'm not doing it. Like, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch whatever, this movie from 1975, that I've been meaning to, that's been on my must-watch list for 30 years, or whatever. So I think, I know it sounds like a kind of weird answer, but that's it. It's my favorite thing to do in the world, period. But I still have to sit down and consciously force myself to do it.
No, the exact same thing. So I graduated from CSUMB at the tail end of 2020. The beginning of 2021 was crashing at my folks' place because I didn't have a job, didn't have anywhere to go, and also pandemic. I literally had to make a schedule of things to do, and one of the things on there was watch movies, even though I was unemployed. The Oscars had just come out, and I really enjoy watching movies. I had to do the exact same thing. I scheduled it into my day, and it was one of the harder things to sit myself down and like just do. Just like, all right, we're going to watch, like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and like see if it's going to get an Oscar win or whatever like that. But like sit down and like, just like, all right, you're going to watch it all the way through.
Well, and I think that's part of, who we are, like how we know each other is an industry that tends to value optimizing, and so I think most of the people in our sphere tend to be people who value optimization and just are constantly thinking about it. And and to really enjoy a movie and just do it, you have to submit to the fact that like this is non-optimized time. This is something that I am choosing to do because I enjoy it, and don't write other things or like write work emails or like monitor social media. Like just kind of not optimizing your time and sitting and enjoying a movie is something that I think is hard for people like us to do sometimes.
Do you find it easier if you say you're going to do it with somebody else? Like if somebody's like, hey, you want to come over and watch this new movie, this show with me, does that make it a lot easier for you to sit down and do it, or is it still just as hard?
It makes it easier, but it makes it harder then to make a plan. You know, again, like I don't think you're into the fatherhood stage yet, but you know,
thankfully I've dodged that bullet so far.
But that kind of makes it harder to just kind of leave and do your own thing. A lot,
Yeah.
you know, childcare is what we call a zero-sum game, in the sense that, like, if one person is not watching the child, then someone else has to be, you know?
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely, I get to prioritize plans with other people as something that you need to do, even if it's something where you wouldn't talk and you just basically sit and watch a movie. But at the same time, it takes a little more forward planning. I could just yell to the rooftop right now, like, I'm going to sit and watch a movie. That's it. And I'll do it. But, like, if I'm going to say, I'm going to leave for the next 4 hours to go hang out with my friend and watch a movie and drink beers, it's a little, like, different, you know? Like,
Yeah.
so, yeah. Not saying I would drink beers, but I probably would.
Who's someone you've never met, alive or dead, that you'd like to have lunch with?
Oh, I mean, it's an unfair, I mean, that's an easy answer. If anyone who's listening to this who knows me is currently rolling their eyes at the fact that I haven't said the name yet, and they're going, just say it, just say it. But because part of my brand that people know me for is that I am a gigantic fan of Nicolas Cage. Among having a lot of Nick Cage paraphernalia or memorabilia, paraphernalia makes it sound like illicit drugs. I don't have any like Nick Cage bongs or anything, but I have like his Reed poster from the library, you know, from the library system in like the mid-90s, where he's holding Siddhartha up against a tree. It's really weird. But I also, and this kind of all came about because I wrote and performed a one-man show about Ghost Rider, the film.
Awesome.
And I give a reasoned, very critical, very like deep film critic analysis for like why Ghost Rider is a film worth critical study and why it's kind of incredible. I knew that would be boring, so when I wrote the show, I paired it with a drinking game, and I invented a drinking game for us to do while we do it. And so I performed that a lot. Add
alcohol.
Yeah. So I performed it a lot, and it worked really well. But an externality from that is definitely that, you know, like, if anyone gets me a gift, they get me a Nick Cage related gift. Like, I have a face-off laser disc, you know? like, I did not buy the face-off laser disc. But I still
awesome.
But I still haven't met him. I have actually, the director of Ghost Rider gave me Nick Cage's gloves from the movie. Which is really cool. So I like have a lot of cool stuff, but I have refused to frame the Reed poster because I really want it to be signed. And so, so I've been waiting until, you know, I have the occasion to run into him and I'll get it signed and then frame it. So that's the answer. You know, it's a...
Yeah, I would hope so. That would be really sad if you were like, yeah, I mean, I did all this stuff for Nick Cage, but I don't really want to meet the guy.
Yeah.
Like,
I've asked him Q&A questions before, you know, but
nice.
But
never gotten to have lunch or have him meet him.
Exactly. My friends have like interviewed him, which is like really annoying to me. You know, I was on a podcast a couple years ago. It's a podcast called Screen Drafts. And basically what you do is different guests come on and they'll pick a topic, like a movie topic. And then you, the guests like draft a best of list. Like, you know, if I get pick 7, you get pick 6, and then I get pick 5, and you get pick 4. But then there are vetoes that you can do. There's like a whole fun little rule system.
That's really cool.
But we did this mega draft of the best top 20 Nick Cage films. And one of my drafting cohorts got to do like an hour and a half interview with Nick Cage when he was doing pig presser stuff, you know, and I was just like, ah! Drea, so I love you, Drea, but I'm mad at you. So anyway.
So when you were mad at this person, what's your favorite non-traditional curse word or phrase, or favorite fixed curse word that you would use to kind of get back at this person who got to do the hour and a half interview?
You know, those are called minced oaths, by the way.
Minced oaths?
Yeah, a minced oath is like actually my favorite is, and has been for a long time, thanks to my friend from college, Justin, is Jeezum Crow. I don't know why, it just kind of stuck, and so we say Jeezum Crow a lot. But, you know, and like so many things from your college years, you start doing something ironically, and then your brain just starts doing it unironically. And so now I just say Jesus Crow a lot, and it's kind of my thing, which is sad, but I can't stop it. So, but yes, that is a minced oath when you don't want to say something that would be an oath, say taking God's name in vain or whatever, and so you say something else. There you go. Jesus Crow. Huh. Jesus Crow, Isaac.
Did you know there's a Jesus Crow festival?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I was looking up to figure out the spelling so I could write it down. There's a Jesus Crow festival that starts on July 8th. It lasts like a day.
Ooh, it's the seventh annual. Where is it?
Vermont?
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, Government Mule has played there. I wonder who runs it. Well, because actually... So a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, in college, she ended up starting a like jewelry company called Jesus Crow, and up in that area actually. I wonder. Anyway, yeah, there you go, Jesus Crow Festival. So yeah, there it is, Jesus Crow Vintage. Oh, that's funny. She's still doing it. Yeah, Jessica. Anyway,
speaking of BFFs, what inanimate object would you like to be BFFs with if it were alive? Or that you'd like to tell it how much you love it if it had ears?
Okay, I got an answer to that. There's two. I'm going to give two. One is my hard-boiled egg maker. It is, you know, if anybody followed film criticism in the early 2000s, you would know that Roger Ebert would shout from the rooftops about his rice maker, his rice cooker. He like literally thought it was just like the world's greatest invention, and he couldn't believe that, and he would just never shut up about it. And that's kind of how I am about this hard-boiled egg maker. It's like $20 from Amazon at the most. I think we got it for like $13, and like it has fundamentally changed my life. I eat hard-boiled eggs all the time, and it doesn't make it that much easier. It just makes it enough easier, you know, that you just do it. And so yeah, I love that hard-boiled egg maker. And then the other thing is, I would want to be BFFs with my favorite candy in the world, and
which is
it's a candy from Sweden.
Of course it is.
They're called boobs or whatever, but it's salt licorice. They're skulls, and they're half salt licorice and half raspberry. And
wow.
I literally had to I don't know. Well, I'm sure the statute of limitations has passed, but they were illegal to import to America. The FDA banned them. So I used to bribe Swedish people that I knew when they came back across to like smuggle me these salt licorice.
Hey, will you be my mule? Will you be my candy mule, please?
I absolutely had candy mules. So I love it. I love salt licorice. Is the greatest flavor in the world. I hate regular licorice. I can't stand it. Black licorice is just like disgusting to me, but salt licorice is simply, and combining it with raspberry, it's better than buffalo sauce and blue cheese. You know, it's just like just a combination, manna from heaven. Manna from the gods. So there you go. Hard-boiled egg maker and my favorite Swedish candy. I don't know what it says about me that I would want to be BFFs with food, but, you know, that's how it goes.
Sounds like you've got your head on a swivel. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's fair.
In tune with getting candy mules, what life hack would you like to share with the class today?
I don't want to give a serious one, because the first one that came in my head is like a serious good one. But yeah, I mean, obviously the egg boiler falls under that category. You just get it. It's just the best, man. Hard-boiled egg snacks. Oh, great. Okay. Yeah, I'll go serious for a quick second. My grandfather is kind of the most influential person in my life. He was born in Italy. They were like hiding out on a farm during World War II. He was shot by a German officer for like staying out after curfew when he was like 10, which I think he still has a bullet in him. I know people have asked him about it. And then like when his father died, he just kind of jumped ship in Philadelphia and wanted to go to college, but they said he didn't know English well enough, and obviously he didn't have accreditation from like any schools. He didn't have any paperwork. So he went every single day and just sat in the admissions office for hours. And he did that for six months until someone let him in. And then he promptly got his degree in physics and worked at Bell Labs. Which was also ironic because he was doing that as, you know, as what we would call now an illegal, as an undocumented, you know, migrant. So at any time he could have just been, and eventually after starting his family and working at like kind of like, I don't know if this is before Bell Labs or not, he he went to the immigration office and he was like, look, I'm sorry, you know, I came here the wrong way, like, but check it out, I'm working at Bell Labs, I got this family, like, I got my degree, like, I'm productive. And the guy at the office he literally turned to him and said, he shook his head and he goes, I should just put you back on a boat right now. And he's like, and my grandfather never holds grudges, but he holds grudges about this one small, tiny person, you know, who like needed a modicum of power to like feel like their life had meaning. Anyway, so that was a very long story, but my grandfather's credo, and I've actually, we named my daughter after my grandfather as well, you know, so like this is a big thing. And his lifelong credo, among many things, among never stop learning, among always being curious, all that sort of stuff, is that everyone has something to teach you always. And so you need to shut the fuck up sometimes, you know? And I think that it's really, you know, for someone like me, as you may or may not be able to tell by listening to this, I need to think about that constantly and consciously. But it really is important, is the best life hack I can think about is listening. If you're having trouble with your weight, listening to your doctor. If you're having trouble with relationships, listen to the people you're trying to date. You know, like just really listening and being an active, empathetic listener is the truest life hack I know. So it's serious, I know, going back from my ridiculous answer about smuggling Swedish candy, but you know, that's the best true life hack I got. You just shut the fuck up. So.
Well, it's going to be a little hard for us to continue this podcast if we both just shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
Instead of practicing that right now, I'll practice it later. But in the interim, if you were a condiment, which one do you think you'd be?
Oh my God. If I were a condiment, which one would I be? Okay. Because this is different than my favorite condiment. My favorite condiment is Yellowbird habanero hot sauce. It is the greatest. It's made from pureed carrots. It is thick. My wife calls it sadistic baby food, and it's wonderful. But I would not be sadistic baby food. I would.
Sadistic baby food.
You know, I would probably be something more like a garlic aioli. That like it's pretty white. It's pretty white and bland, you know. But like, there's a little something in it that gives you a little hint of spice, but you know, it won't turn you off too much. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with, a garlic aioli.
He's got a big collection of Nick Cage stuff.
Yeah.
See, he's not that.
Yeah, no, I swear. Let me show you my room. I'm not a total normal like just white dude. I swear. You know, yeah, the garlic aioli. There we go. That's it.
Garlic aioli.
Have you gotten some really good answers to that? Because that strikes me as an odd question.
You are the first person. Yes, it is. That is one that is exactly what I wanted to come across of, as it is an odd question, but also you were the first person that has got to answer it, as you were the first guest of season 2.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm in a new rotation of questions for the most part. I'm sure you're bringing some back, but for the most part...
There are some that are sticking around for you and other listeners out there. There are some that are sticking around, and there are some that are changing in a way to keep this, you know, kind of fresh and not get really, you know, bogged down by just having the same constant questions. There's some that are going to, you know, move in and out. In season 1, there was, you know, we didn't have... one of like the kind of standby bits until like 5 or 6 episodes in. We didn't have the favorite underutilized word, you know, that one kind of was a mainstay. So there's like some of these that may or may not work or may work and come in and out. So, but yeah, there's a lot of these that are new. There's some that are staying relatively the same, as viewers will notice.
Well, I hope, yeah, and I'm sure you're taking some, like, thoughts back and forth of how I'm answering, of like, oh, he answered this question terribly. I don't care about anyone being an egg boiler, you know, like, then you're going to change it for the next guest or whatever.
No, that was great.
Buy it.
I know a lot of people that very much connect with that answer.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's just the best. And you know what? Shout out to my mom. My mom buys a lot of, like, you know, things that may or may not be actually helpful, you know, but like the kind of gadgety stuff. And she got this for me, and I was the most skeptical human being in the world. I saw it, and it was like my eyes rolled in the back of my head, and I was just like, yeah, whatever, I'm going to throw this out the second you leave. And I was wrong. My mom was totally right. She was the best. So there you go. Shout out, Mama.
What's a job at some point in your life you wanted to pursue but are very glad you didn't get?
Huh. Okay, that's a real question. Okay. Here, I
added inflection and put a question mark on it and everything.
Yeah,
real question. Can confirm.
yes. Grammatically correct question. Okay. When I was in Austin the first time, and I was kind of working in the film industry, and I was kind of like working for South by Southwest, but also like working at the local video store, which I love to death. I love video for life, RIP. But hold on, my dog is shaking a collar. I'm sure you can hear that. Okay. Yeah. But I didn't know, I was getting bogged down, and I thought that I kind of hit a ceiling and I wasn't really moving places, so I decided to go back to school. But the problem was I knew I wanted to formally learn again, but I didn't know what I wanted to go back to school for. So there was a large process of figuring out what I was going to go back for. And the 3 finalists that I ended up all applying for was a PhD in paleobiology, a PhD in evolutionary psychology, and law, and going to law school. And I didn't end up getting the paleobiology PhD program slot. And I'm very thankful because I really think my whole life has been a series of Swiss Army knives. You know, like I'm not a specialist in anything. I am a generalist. And I've decided subsequently that of postgraduate degrees or graduate degrees in graduate studies, law is the Swiss Army knife. It's like the English degree of undergrad, or you know what I mean? So it really suited who I was as a person to kind of get into a program like that where you weren't going to be as directly pigeonholed as you would with something that I genuinely love. I love paleobiology. I love the idea of figuring out extinct ecosystems and understanding how they all interrelated. But I also think that it really would have been a career of me studying one rock for 10 years and like trying to get funding to continue studying that rock, you know, and I don't know if... Yeah, I didn't know myself well enough to know that I would truly hate that, you know? So,
yeah, exactly.
That's a job I didn't get, but I'm glad I didn't get it.
That's awesome.
There you go.
That's so cool that you found something that, like, that just, like, suits your natural nature simultaneously. Not only did you not get this other thing, but, like, the thing that you're not necessarily meant for, but that, like, kind of gels best with you is the one that just kind of happened.
Yeah, and, you know, I'm going to go on record. I kind of shout this from the rooftops whenever I can, but, like, if you can afford it, law school is the greatest thing in the world. And I don't just mean money-wise, but I mean if you have the time, if you have the inclination, if you have I went to law school for the exact wrong reason, the reason that everybody tells you not to go to law school, which is I wanted to learn the law. I just saw that my life...
They don't teach you that?
Yeah, I just saw that, well, the idea is, like, being a lawyer is different than knowing the law, right? And the practitioner of being a lawyer is very different than, like, learning the law and learning what the law is. It's just, they're incompatible. In the end, you should think of law as a trade school, you know, not as like some sort of philosophical, high-minded pursuit. And so that's why they say don't go to law school to learn the law. I did, mostly because I was sick of my modern life being governed every day by contracts or laws that I like didn't understand or why, you know, and I felt like it was kind of, in a way, getting a law degree was like becoming a programmer of society. You know, but you can like see, you know, I can kind of see the matrix in the sense that like I can see the lines of code and like rules and regulations that govern how our society operates, you know, and it's not like a superpower or anything, but like it made me a lot more confident in kind of going through everything because I feel like I get it. And even if I don't get it, obviously I don't know everything, but I know how to learn it, you know, which is really cool. So it's a great feeling. So there you go. Proselytizing from the rooftops. Go to law school, and don't make a lot of money and then be frustrated trying to pay off all your student debts. For a while. So, you know. as I trail off with that sentence.
On a happier note, you're going out. I'm going to give you a hypothetical circumstance. You're going out to a party and you want to look extra. Other than the normal garb that you usually rock, what accessory are you going to put on to give it that extra zing?
What kind of a party? Like, am I wearing a tie to this party? Like, is that normal?
Well, whatever party you normally or would most likely find yourself attending.
Yeah, if I'm going to like a lawyer function or whatever, and I get to like dress up nice, then I will do something like a tie clip or a tie pin, and preferably you coordinate that with your watch colors, you know, and your kind of light shoe accent colors. I think those look really nice and elegant. You know, cufflinks are cool, but like I really like tie pins. I think, you know, the kind of like pushing your knot up in front. I think that's really cool. But if you're not allowed to wear, you know, if wearing a tie makes you look like a stooge, then I'd probably wear just a white belt to go with white shoes. That would be kind of the
nice
extra
kind of tie-in accent going on there.
And one of the things I do also is my wedding ring. I use synthetic wedding bands a lot, like workout bands or whatever. But I have them in like 14 different colors. So I will often accessorize my wedding band color to like match my belt and my shoes or whatever. So there'll just be like a little white on my
little pop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. There you go. That's what I would do. I mean, I'm not like a fancy hat wearer, you know? Like, it's just not really me. Which I'm bald. Maybe I should be a bigger hat wearer, but that's how it goes.
So it goes.
Yeah. So I don't think enough people are matching their rings. I don't think enough people are accessorizing with the rings. Especially because so many people, if you check, so many people wear synthetic wedding bands now. Men wear, you know, like the thing you can go to work out in, and it doesn't accidentally, you know, whatever, cut off your finger, whatever.
I hear that's a bad thing.
Yeah, generally speaking, yeah. I actually have...
Yeah, you're trying to lose weight, but not that kind of weight when you go to the gym.
My wife, the wedding band she got me is Meteorite, which is really cool. But I can't go too close to super magnets, because if I go too close to super magnets, it will literally just cut through my own finger and just go to the magnet.
Not ideal.
Yeah. I gotta really worry about being around super magnets, superconductors, or whatever.
What life lesson do you wish you learned sooner?
You know, it's hard. Because obviously, I mean, the real answer is, well, everything that I've learned at this point, it would have been nice to know it a little earlier, right? I think one of the things that I will I think the way I'm going to try and answer it is saying, what am I going to try and instill in my daughter? You know? And I think the thing is, I was, you know, as, again, many Magic players, we're generally a pretty smart folk, and that can tend to make us complacent and, you know, not learn work ethic because scholastic stuff and education kind of comes easily. And I think that there was a while there that I was kind of developing a complacency in that aspect. I was fully pursuing other things. I was in bands. I was doing a lot of fun stuff, but like I really just wasn't caring about school because I was able to get pretty good grades without it. And then you get to college, or you don't even get into the best college you want to because your grades aren't like the greatest and you didn't really apply yourself. And then even there's more social pressure so that you continue to not apply yourself, you know? And look, I did fine educationally, but I would have liked to have done better, you know? And I think that's partially because when I went to law school and I saw all these like really accomplished people, you know, getting there, that I was surrounded by these people. And then you learn like, oh, they're not that smart. Like, I'm not, you know, it's not that I'm smarter than them, but like I can go toe to toe with them, but they have learned this rhythm of how to apply themselves, how to apply ethics in the right way to kind of end up in a better position, you know? And I feel like I could have done that earlier. That would have been nice to have actually learned that earlier. That's no fault of my parents. I just didn't listen to them at all. So,
the exact same thing.
Yeah.
No, it's not about what you have. It's about what you do with what you have.
Yeah.
is the way I've kind of had that explained to me. And absolutely the same thing. I had a very similar problem at a kind of like ramped up dealio, but like when I first went to university, when I graduated high school, graduated pretty easily with like a 3.85, took a couple of AP classes, went to like the local community college, feeling good. And then I went to like actual university away from like any structure. And it was just like, didn't know how to apply myself, was smarter than plenty of the people I interacted with, but didn't have good, like, sit down and study, do your homework, like read the required text. And so it was just like, within a year, I found myself, it's like dropping out. It's like,
yeah. And I think it's not uncommon, right? Like, I think it's, and it's sad, right? I don't know. I'm not sad about it now, but because again, exactly. I'm sure we've both learned from it. Right. But like at the time, exactly. It just feels like, oh, God, what am I doing? I remember
it is like one of the things though, that if you can do it, it like revolutionizes. It definitely is one of those things that like changes your whole entire trajectory and like the way you do other things. I agree that it's like one of those life lessons that like the earlier somebody can figure that out is just like it uncaps so much potential.
And it's really
like you just
I'm sorry, I cut you off. I didn't mean to.
No, you're good. Go.
No, and it's really interesting because like my sister will say this, so I am not throwing my sister under the bus, but my sister book smarts did not come as easily to her as it did to me. Test taking was just not one of her strong suits, but like as a result, she ended up, from a very young age developing that ethic. And like now we're both adults and I am just completely bowled over by how put together she is as an adult and as a human. And it was something that to this day she like rolls her eyes and talks about how much smarter I am than her, but like I look at, she's like 6 years younger than me and just like a completely well-rounded human being in every way, better than I am, and
you're over here just crossing your knuckles in your Nick Cage gloves going, gosh.
Yeah, right. And it's interesting. We're kind of a study in contrast in that way, that we're very, very, very similar, except for a few minute differences. And that was one of them. And we wound up being, there was a way that I could have ended up being like her. And there's a way that she would have ended up being like me, but we just didn't do it that way,
Yeah. It's so fascinating how the world works like that.
I know. I'm also kind of obsessed with, family structures and systems, which kind of came when I was studying for alcoholic dependent families and things like that, and how different people take on different roles that you need to. But like, I think the only reason that my sister ended up feeling like she was not good at taking tests is because I was better, not because she's actually bad at it. She was never bad at it, but then all of a sudden this expectation then changed developmentally who she was. So, but put her in a slightly different situation and all of a sudden she just ends up being a different person. And so like those family roles that we all take on, I believe this weird concept of family parasitism, that like a family system will always contain exactly how many parasites it can support, because it's the same thing with parasites in nature, right? That there is an equilibrium between parasitic organisms and their hosts. If there's too many parasites, the deer population dies, right? Yeah, exactly. So like in a family system, you extended family, whatever it is, brothers, they're like moocher, which I don't assign any moral culpability of that. I think it's fine. I think being parasitic is the best way to live, probably. But like, but you'll find, I mean, it really is, right? That's why 75%
I mean, have you had a sugar daddy? It's amazing.
Well, that's why 75% of all organisms in the world are parasitic, right? Because like, it's just the easiest way to live, and so, but you just got to make sure. So I like looking at family systems as this kind of miniature ecosystem where, you're managing I don't want to say the laziness, but like the parasitism of different family members, within that structure. And it always seems to balance out eventually in the end. Obviously in the short term, if it doesn't balance out, then the family unit collapses, right? But like, if there's someone in your family who's kind of a moocher, like people are generally okay with it as long as like they'll roll their eyes and they'll be a little sad
They
at
can
him.
mooch to nth degree, but they cannot mooch past that.
Exactly, and like that's okay, because that's actually reflective of how nature operates, which is really cool to see it reflected in this small social unit.
It's going to be my excuse next time. It's like, why are you laying on the couch eating all our food? Hey, look, you gotta have a parasite.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
all this is wasted. All of this like extra materials that you're like providing. I mean,
who would eat this if I didn't sit down and have all the pies?
Yeah, I hope that I hope that
clearly
every listener here an excuse to now try and be the family moocher, like take the spot of the other person.
Speaking of family, growing up, what did you want to be?
This is gonna be a weird question. There's gonna be a weird answer. I don't remember much from childhood, and that is not due to trauma, or at least I don't think so. But I just don't have many memories going back that far. Like what were my wants and wishes? I remember awkward social things that I did incorrectly, or I remember, but I don't remember kind of what I was thinking at a given time.
What's the first job that you remember, like wanting to like? That you like dreamt of, becoming, regardless of age, even if it was like late high school. Like, was there? Do you remember like the first job that you're kind of like, oh shit, I want to do that?
I mean, I wanted to be a musician. Music was like really, really important to me, and I wanted to be a musician for a long time. But I think if I use this as a weird flex about me or whatever, which if you have a personal brand, you should try and figure out how to answer every question as a weird flex about yourself. I really wanted to work for Magic the Gathering, and I really wanted to work for WWE, or at the time, WWF. Those were both things that, like, as 13-year-old me, were extremely important to me. And I was able to do both of them. And in fact, I was able to do them both simultaneously at one point. I ended up working as a contractor for Magic the Gathering for 12 years, and then I worked at WWE Studios, and I worked for WWE, and I was I actually made a reality show that got on air recently, which is really cool. But I kind of lived both of those dreams, and I remember the day I got the job, I like tweeted out like, if 14-year-old me knew that he would eventually work for Magic the Gathering and WWE simultaneously, his head would explode, and I try and remember that every day.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
You've got something on your shoulder, a little bit of dust from heaven or something. Can you brush that off real quick?
Done. I actually physically did it. I listened to you and I actually did it. Why did I do that? But I mean, but as silly as it sounds, and I try and hold on to those things and I try and talk about them, because my career life is always in flux. It's always weird, and it's never stable, and my wife has to bear the brunt of my like instability of it, and she's like the most stable person ever, and I look up to her that way. So I try and glean these sort of like joys, out of these things, because like right now I'm worried about where I'm going to make money from a year from now, So yes, I am brushing stuff off my shoulder, but I am also doing it to remember that I have accomplished good things, and I will accomplish good things in the future, Yeah. So,
speaking of good things, what's the next book, graphic novel, TV show, or movie that you've been putting off as next on your to consume list?
By the way, I don't even know if these transitions are good anymore, because like you say speaking of and then a thing, and then you're like, how are we into this? How did you segue into this? You're so good. I don't even remember what you said speaking of about, but so okay. I'll have two answers to that. First one is my wife and I are going to rewatch, or for me sometimes watch, all the James Bond franchise. It's just a thing that I've never watched before. Like, I've seen some movies, I saw the ones in theaters, but like I just have a gaping hole in my knowledge of that. And we really wanted to watch No Time to Die, but I hear that No Time to Die is very influenced by all the movies that came before it. So I thought this was a good excuse to do that. Also, Sweet. I have been developing a TV show that no one will ever buy. That is a period drama set in the 1950s and early 60s, about the Warren Court and about the Supreme Court clerks that worked for the Warren Court. And you talk about all like the social change that's going on at that time through the lens of these like young 24-year-olds who are like trying to become power brokers in Washington. And so
that's so cool.
Yeah, thanks. Unless George Clooney signs on. Clooney, if you're listening to this, sign on. It's
holla at your boy.
Yeah, it's very
because Clooney's listening to this.
Boy, Clooney.
I love how much how big a reach you think this podcast has. I take that very much as a compliment.
But that's the only thing that's going to sell something like this. It is so it's so hard to get.
It needs a name.
Yeah, exactly.
To be sure.
But I've been reading. I have a bunch of books that I have been simultaneously picking up and putting down because again I need to make money, so I can't just sit for weeks on end and read like a 700-page Earl Warren biography that I know is only going to be basically used in footnotes for my source materialing. So I have about 6 books that I'm literally looking at right now that I keep next to my workstation that I should re-pick up. So there you go.
So
Clooney, holler at me.
Warren. Yeah, Clooney, holler at your boy. Speaking of Clooney, what poor man luxury do you still enjoy to this day?
I was going to say, not really a nice fresh pair of underwear. I should change them more regularly.
Good to know. Glad this is audio only.
I mean, really, it's because I try and, I end up wanting to put on new underwear after I work out during a day. So I'll keep on the old underwear after I wake up until I'm going to work out in them, and then I change them. But then, I end up not working out, and so then I forget.
Now, that sounds like the life hack you should have listed earlier.
Yeah, right. Life hack.
Just don't change your underwear, kids. That is the worst. It's a great save on washing.
That is the worst life hack in the world. So the poor man luxuries that... Oh, okay. This is going to sound really douchey.
I'm here for that.
Love going out in my backyard, just lighting a fire and watching the stars. That could be an entire evening for me of just I'm just gonna sit here and do that. And that was something that I used to do as a little kid, since Boy Scouts.
Just light a fire in the Weber barbecue and just look up at the stars.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. Weber barbecue, yeah, sure. Why the hell not? You can throw some wood in there, it'll take it. But
yeah.
But seriously, that is it's one of my favorite things. And I don't do it enough.
So pure.
But yeah, that's definitely something.
I would bet nobody does that enough.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, that's kind of the thing. And it's really funny. There's one of the Berenstain Bear books that I've been reading my daughter. It's Berenstain Bears and too much TV. And so they don't watch TV for a month. And one of the things they do is just go out in the evening and watch the stars come out. And I was you jerks. You're right, Jan and Stan Berenstain or whatever. Yeah, I should be doing this more.
Genius.
But
you
instead,
really
I'm fucking catching up on whatever Righteous Gemstone episode I missed. Why? Why am I doing that? And Righteous Gemstones is good. I'm not saying it's bad. It's very good. But that what, is it enriching my life? I don't know to what degree it is. Yeah.
But looking at stars, wood burns for my nostril appreciation.
Exactly.
Now that is impressive, really. All right. Lastly, before we throw it to a commercial break, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song you were choosing, which would it be?
I'm totally going to out you right now. So, we discussed this a little bit before we went to air, audience. And my answer was so difficult to pronounce. And I gave Isaac the opportunity to not say it. And I was I'll say it. And he's no, I got it. But now when it comes time, he's looking at the word again, going, yeah, no, okay, you can take this one, Mark. And I will. I think that everybody... I'm a huge fan of a kind of odd 10-piece instrumental Norwegian group called Jaga Jazzist. They had a #1 hit in Norway, which is very weird because it was 7.5 minutes long and had no words, and it's kind of Pat Metheny influenced electro jazz or whatever. And but they have a song that means the most to me in the world, and it's called Sweden Sportskarom, which I'm sure that you will type in and have so that someone could you show it, Isaac, so that they don't have to worry about Sweden Sportskarom. But it's this gorgeous little slow song that slowly builds. And I saw Jaga Jazzist before I'd ever heard them before. I just kind of went to a show. And, it's amazing seeing in a church basement just 10 people with like 17 instruments on stage, and they're all just like jumping back and forth in between instruments. And so they're playing this song, and it's building, and then about 4 minutes in, or 3 minutes in maybe, they all just stopped, stopped playing everything, and it went silent for a second. And then every single one of them, without mics, just started singing a 10-part harmony part that was new. I had never heard it, it wasn't introduced in the song. It was just totally just out of nowhere. And that is probably my most important like musical moment. In that moment was sitting in that church basement surrounded by 120 people, and just hearing these amazing, incredible musicians compose something that I had never thought you could compose before and make it palatable. And they just really did. And they came back into it, and I was just kind of wowed. And from then on, they kind of ended up being my favorite band. And I still listen to that song really loud in the car when I'm by myself with like the windows down at night. You know what I mean? Like that sort of a thing. And so Jaga Jazz's Sweden Sportska Rom is kind of, my favorite. And of course, now I know that Swedenborg was a Swedish theologian. So I didn't know that until today when I was looking up what the hell the name of the song meant. Did that get you into commercial? Did that get you into the commercial well? Did I transition into the ad break? Great.
I don't know. But with that, we're going to throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy the totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy Swedensk Borsk CD-ROM by Jaga Jazzist. Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify, Passionate People and Preposterous Beef's podcast song Rex. It's a long title, I know.
Don't worry, there's a link in the description.
Either way, see you in a jiffy. Hey you. Yes, you. Yes, I'm talking to you. Have you ever wanted to record audio? Or perhaps fiddle with recorded audio? Maybe even record audio of a fiddle and then fiddle with said audio? Well, now you can with Audacity? With all the run-of-the-mill bells and whistles, you'll be confusing yourself with the tech in no time. But won't that cost lots of money? Because with my snow-blowing habit, I can only afford it. It ain't gonna cost shit. Audacity is free and easy enough to use that even a snow-blowing son of a gun can use it too. And welcome back. Here with Mark Calderaro. Mark, what is the passion that you've brought with you today?
The passion? Like, naming it? I brought that
hot, fiery desire that you have inside your gullet.
I don't know, Italian. Is it olive oil? Is that what I brought? Yeah, it's probably...
That should have been your condiment.
It's probably olive oil. Yeah, the big joke, I tan very well, and the big joke was that I sweat olive oil. And it's really attractive. I'm the person, there's always one person in every group that like gets bit by all the mosquitoes, but like, and then leaves everyone else alone. That's me. And that was the other thing, is that the olive oil makes me sweeter, so that's my passion. What can I tell you? That's the passion I brought today.
But in all reality, what is the passion that you brought with you today?
Oh, I don't know what you mean by that question. I'm sorry. I thought I answered it well. Shit, I didn't.
No. Like, what is we talked about.
Oh, that before, passion. Like that passion. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Also olive oil. No. No. The passion that I brought today is the passion of proselytizing and being an evangelical for the shit you love. That's kind of the way I get joy in life, my joie de vivre, so to speak, is getting people to love the things that I also love, even if they don't think they're going to love them, especially if they don't think they're going to love them, right? Like, and there's a thing. I worked for a professional wrestling company for years, and like, we all know kind of the stigma that kind of professional wrestling has. And it was wonderful to I love professional wrestling, and I have some really good arguments for why it's like an incredible art form, and kind of convincing people who are skeptical of that, is really cool. That's the same thing with Magic the Gathering, right? Like, we all know Magic the Gathering has a rep with muggles, you know, with like non-magic people. But like, you know, over the course of my life, I've probably taught magic to like, I don't know, 150 people, and probably, you know, I don't know, who knows. But like, and I love that. I love when people kind of like, you see that click and they feel the same thing you feel, and you kind of bond together in that way. So yeah, evangelical for good things. imply from that what you will.
You're not a passionate evangelical. You're an evangel about your passion.
Yes, right. Yes. Yeah.
When do you first get started or introduced to this idea of like sharing that thing? Do you remember, like, obviously everybody kind of does this, you know, ooh, I like this thing here, you should like it too. But when do you remember it kind of like becoming such like a masthead in like the way you lived your life?
It was adolescence for me, and I think for a lot of people, of when you figure out what's the nexus of what you enjoy doing and what you apparently might be okay at doing. And I tried all these different things because I wanted to know what I was good at, you know, like I played music, I was in theater, I played sports, like I did all these different things. But I realized that the one thing that they all had in common was that I really liked doing them, and I had a way to convey what I liked that was pretty good. And so that's why one of my degrees is in writing. And it was just specifically because I wanted to get better at conveying that passion and enthusiasm. Because, I don't know, because I'm a boisterous guy, and, you know, I'm pretty good at parties, and that's what people like about me is, you know, and that's what people also hate about me, but, you know, whatever. Too bad. But, like, but so I wanted to hone that, and I enjoyed honing it. I enjoy talking and listening to people and finding out and being responsive to people. You know, I'm not like giving a speech for why you should like pro wrestling. I'm listening to you and your thoughts about it, and then I'm like finding the way in of expanding your joy. And that's all this is. You know, we have there is no meaning in life, or at least there is no inarguable meaning of life. But so what we can all agree on is that like maximizing the joy for you and others around you is probably the best we can do. And I think that's what I have to offer, I guess.
What was the first thing you remember being this zealous about that everybody had to know and like it?
Oh, it was definitely movies. I mean, like huge, you know, and I got really into like in high school, me and my friends got really, really, really into like B grade action VHSs.
Nice.
Yeah, well, we, you know, have a very large VHS collection. We would just go like bargain bin hunting and just kind of explore. You know, the internet wasn't as robust as it is now, so you just kind of got to find them all. But I ended up writing like a thesis paper on analyzing what that does and why, you know, and like why I think people found joy in it, having to do with this kind of, you know, nostalgia or non-nostalgia or cultural, you know, awareness. And like, I loved that. I loved being introspective and figuring out why I even liked the things that I liked. That was actually a joy to me, was sitting and like figuring out why things brought me joy. So it just kind of came from there that you want to figure out how to express that. I don't know. Maybe this is all sounding dumb. I haven't really expressed this. No, like seriously, like I haven't expressed this. You got me. Like, you know, a lot of these questions I'm able to like, you know, jostle, but this one I'm really not. And I'm actually saying things that I've never said before. So I'm kind of actually talking through the answer with y'all live. So maybe that all sounds dumb, but I think that's probably about right. Good job, Isaac.
Yay, I did it. So one of the things, I know there's lots of people, myself included, that, you know, when you get super passionate about something, you want to share it with the world, you can end up accidentally coming across as, you know, one note, bullheaded, and it can get very annoying for the people around you if they like don't have the time, that's not their cup of tea. How do you avoid being obnoxious about this while still being persistent?
Oh, easy. Well, I don't think you should be persistent. Like if someone, if you're reading someone and they don't want to be sold on a thing, don't sell them on a thing. I think it's a really funny difference between boomers and millennials as far as like salesman strategy, is that like boomers love being sold on stuff in general, like they love a car salesman who's like, who's like really talking to them about it, and millennials and below kind of just like people to like shut the hell up and let them do their own thing, but other than pedantically quibbling with your word choice, the trick for me has always been to have a bunch of different passions, it's like, it's really interesting.
So you can kind of offer them like a menu.
Well, and you're not even...
You're like a waiter, like showing up like, these are the specials we have today. Are any of these of interest to you? And if like the answer is no, then you can just like kind of fuck off. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like, well, it's the sort of thing that like when you listen and talk to somebody and you find out what they're interested in, you find out the stuff they like, and you find out, what makes them tick. You go, you know what? Have you ever heard of this thing? It really seems like all of these different like things you like, is something that is of interest to you. It's humorously enough. You're
like the traveling salesman of passions. You're just walking around, listen to people, see what their malady is. You know what? I've got a movie for that.
I want to make sure that people know.
Reach in your trench coat.
I want to make sure people know that like this isn't something I'm actively doing all the time. Like not every interaction with me you're having is not me like trying to figure out how to how to get in there. But yeah, kind of. And it's really funny. I hadn't really linked it right until now, but when I worked at I Love Video at the video store, and we had a stock of I think 75,000 films. We were like, we were two stories. It was huge. It was, it was a real like connoisseur crazy place. And the reason people still came in there in the age of Netflix and in the age of whatever is because they knew and trusted that the clerks would point them in the direction of something that they had never heard of, and they would experience something new, and so that was really, it was my favorite job in the world. In the end, like, if that paid a living wage, and I knew that video stores would be open for the rest of my life, that's what I would do. 100%. It's just help people find movies that they haven't heard of, that they don't know they love yet. You know what I mean? Oh God, I could do that forever. So, but I can't do that. So I kind of just got to do it. Yeah. I kind of just got to do it in everyday life. But that's a big thing. Like, you kind of know me, I'm sure, as like a Magic the Gathering person. Because I was at one time I was working every other weekend in a year. I worked like 30 weekends a year, traveling the world, going to Magic events. But like, I didn't really even play Magic in the weekdays. I was like, doing a bunch of other things. Like Magic was never, and that coincided with the reason I kind of stopped working for them, is that the way the industry went is that it was like now governed by lifers. It wasn't good enough to like be a reporter anymore. It was that you were a Magic person for life who could also write. You know what I mean? Yep. And so, but yeah, that was like one of 12 things I was pursuing, and. It's really dilettantism. It's classic, like, jack of all trades, master of none, which is why I'm constantly in this predicament if I don't know what I'm going to do next. But it certainly makes my life interesting.
Yeah. Also allows you to, like, have a bunch of different venues. Like, if you had just been sticking with Magic, that might actually be problematic at this point, because your opportunity might not have existed as largely as it did, when you started 10 or so years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's entering into an industry that is governed by a monopole company, or a monopole service, like one thing is always going to just be wary. Just know you're doing it,
So. What do you think your favorite, I don't want to say it's a sell, but what has been your like favorite conversion or introduction that you've gotten to give somebody to a specific thing? Is there one that like stands out as this like somewhere between nailed it and just like really changed their life for the better?
That's a huge question. And I know there are a couple people who told me things and I can't think of them right now. But no, I think recently, because I've been working with WWE recently, a lot of people, I love converting people who hate wrestling to like having a complete like philosophical reversal on wrestling, that even if they don't like it, they're like, oh my God, is this a high art, or whatever. That's definitely one of my favorites, because just like anytime you take something that's viewed as low class, and just kind of and forgotten about, and then just kind of like philosophically reverse that. I love country music too, like a lot. And I kind of like philosophically love country music, you know, even more so than I like the music sometimes. But that's another one that it's just like, it's so easy to write off. But why? It's awesome. There's some incredible stuff in the art form that'll just like make you cry, you know? And so like, why close yourself off to that experience, you know? So yeah, that's, I don't know. I know that's kind of non-responsive, but I can't really think of something right now. I love convincing people that the game I designed is not actually a Cards Against Humanity ripoff, and it's like totally different than that. They come in and they're so skeptical, and they just have their like face on. They're like, "Oh yeah, one of you," and then they like play the game. We talk about it, and they come away and buy the game. You know, that feels nice, but maybe that's because it's to my monetary benefit.
So I'm trying to find there's a movie about wrestling where it's like kind of exposed not being fake. I'm kind of
Ready to Rumble, the wrestler.
I think it's Ready to Rumble. Yeah, with Oliver Platt.
Yeah. I love that movie.
Yeah, I kind of thought you might. How does that, as somebody who's a big fan of pro wrestling, how did that one? Because that's one of the ones that I remember where they really kind of addressed the idea from a fan perspective of like, yeah, this isn't fake, and kind of took it from the, while being comical, also like looking at the aspect of like the way it's viewed by general populace.
Yeah.
As opposed to a lot of other movies. Like I love The Wrestler, but it doesn't ever really take into like that much account of like, you know, kind of the outside looking in. It's kind of mostly from the you know, wrestler's perspective, which is still great, and it's a fantastic movie. Would highly recommend it. But in Ready to Rumble, it's very much from like a fan perspective. So as a fan who kind of has to deal with that, you know, well, you know, it's not fake, or you know, it's not real, right? Like, how does that movie like kind of sit with you? Also, as someone who's a film critic.
I mean, I think, you know, look, you know, that movie, as I don't want to say has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it was definitely not viewed critically well. But I had a lot of fun with it, and I think it dealt with that really well. I 100% agree. You know, it's interesting. One of the reasons that I truly love wrestling is that audience participation is not only encouraged, but it's like necessary for the art. If you don't have an audience, or if you don't have an engaged audience, then it becomes something different. It's not wrestling. Which kind of makes it a lot like I'll say illusions, just to differentiate from Magic the Gathering. But like, you know, when you're performing magic, like there's no reason to perform magic without an audience. It's kind of impossible, and that audience participation.
Yeah.
And the whole audience has to willfully choose to be deceived. Right? Everybody who's going in to a live event is saying like, okay, fool me. Like, I know this is fake, but fool me. And I think it's more active with wrestling and magic. It's closer than with a TV show, which has the same suspension of disbelief, right? When you like watch a TV show, nobody thinks Game of Thrones is real. You know, like we all know that Game of Thrones is fake, but you're asked to be like, but isn't this a cool story? And I think that because it's live, there's some theatrical aspect to it, that it's tighter, and that causes then people who aren't willing to suspend their disbelief to mock it and to use kind of that knowledge as kind of a cudgel to look down on other people, you know? And that's never good. And that's really awful and kind of, I don't know, kind of unsociable and terrible. And so I do really appreciate that Ready to Rumble like took that stuff head on and was saying like, I know that the cool kids say that this is stupid, but like it's not. It's actually and again, why would you try and impede someone's joy at all if it doesn't affect it doesn't affect you? Like what's the point of it? Is the only way that you get joy is from the
American way,
from other people's misery? Like what a sad way to go through life, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, maybe a non-responsive answer.
Yucking like, somebody else's yum is definitely the lowest form of like social interaction, to be sure.
Yeah, and look, like I know that we're in an era right now where we want to call out immorality, which is like totally fine. There are some people's yums that I am okay with yucking, you know, but
that they're quite yucky.
Yeah, right, exactly. Sure. But like, I don't know, just because I listen to country music, you know, or whatever, it's just like, I don't know, get over yourself, man.
Yeah. We're starting to stray out of the passionate territory into one that's a little bit more preposterously peeveful. So perhaps we should switch sections, and I should ask, Mark, what is your preposterous peeve?
Did you know that I was trying to take some segue weight off you, and I thought I could segue in myself?
I appreciate the assist.
That is absolutely, you know, when you asked this question, and I kind of thought about it, and I asked my wife, she said, well, you really hate people who chew with their mouth open, and you really hate it when I don't fold clean laundry. And I was like, yeah, but those aren't fun. You know, like, those are boring.
Also, one of those is just universally bad.
They're both universally bad. What are you talking about?
Okay, fine. They're both universally bad. But neither of which, what I mean to say, are neither of which are particularly preposterous. However,
yeah,
the one you came up with is quite,
which actually defines my whole being and comes to, you know, if you're in this, if you've been listening to me and are actually still with this interview or whatever, through all of my ridiculousness, is that you might be able to guess it, and it is exactly kind of what I said a second ago, is that people who try and use knowledge to, like, against other people for no good value. And especially, this started with my own, like, I guess what we used to call them was grammar Nazis. I am a grammar Nazi. You know, I just can't.
You're the Lieutenant Aldo Rain of grammar Nazis.
It's like, yes, exactly. You know, in fact, the first article I wrote, like, you know, when I was writing articles for funsies or whatever, I wrote this article called "Stop Arguing About the Oxford Comma, You Classist," and it was just about how, like, saying that you need to use the Oxford comma is not correct, and, like, making fun of people for, like, not using the Oxford comma is not correct. There's no reason for it other than you trying to make yourself feel better, and you're not linguistically correct, you're not grammatically correct, so, like, why are you doing it, you know? And that really hasn't stopped. You know, that really hasn't stopped. It really yucks my own yum. In fact, the one I was thinking of, the one that still gets me, and I had an argument on stream with someone about it, is the less versus fewer distinction. You know, people are like, oh, it's not fewer than 10 items, it's less than 10 items, or whatever it is. And it's just like, oh, shut the fuck up. Like, you're not right. You are imposing a rule on the language that does not exist, and you're insisting that rule exists for some reason, so that you can try and, like, just pedantically correct somebody. Like, maybe you should just shut the fuck up instead. Take my advice for the life hack. Listen to that life hack I said earlier. But yeah, I don't know if that's preposterous, but, like, whoo, boy, howdy, it gets my goat, man. Cheese and crow, you know.
When did you notice this being, like, a problem for you, and, like, really kind of, like, revving your engine in a less than positive direction?
Well, it was definitely with the advent of the internet exposing you to kind of that sort of constant negativity. And negativity in every area. You know, like, when you're just in school saying there's no internet and you're just subjected to your school ecosystem, there's only going to be certain things you're going to be bullied about, right? That's just, like, how it works. Mm-hmm. But then the internet shows you every way to bully someone you can, you know? And
with none of the recompense or consequence,
right? And
to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
You are like a maskless, faceless, you know, invisible being that cannot be basically punished in any way.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And so in university or whatever, you know, I took a lot of courses in, like, grammar usage and style, and, like, I kind of, you know, I went to the 200 level course, and then, like, I made the professor do a 300 level course in it, because, like, I really loved learning how syntax and linguistics and grammar kind of all, and semiotics kind of all play off each other in a way to write better. But the big takeaway is, like, holy shit, all this stuff is just prescribed by us. We just figure it all out. And so, like, imposing rigid rule systems on it, like, the way I think about language generally is if you're arguing about something, if it's even in your head that there's a fight about it, you've already lost the fight, right? Like the idea that like literally can't mean figuratively. Like by the time that discussion started happening, it was very clear that literally also meant figuratively already. There's nothing you could do to stop it. Like it's, you know, like there are two types of people when they think about language. They'll think about descriptivists or prescriptivists. Prescriptivists are people who think that the rules define how we use the language. You know, the dictionary defines what words are. But descriptivists believe that the dictionary is just a tool that describes how society defines words. So it's society that defines words, dictionaries don't, right? Dictionaries just try to codify what people are saying words mean, right? Yeah, so, exactly. And I'm such a descriptivist. Like, how could you not be? So, if you interact with, life, you just see how it operates, right?
You're like Geoffrey Rush in Pirates of the Caribbean. They're more guidelines than actual rules.
Yeah, that is me. I am absolutely... You are absolutely right. And way to bring in a good Johnny Depp, topical reference at the moment. That was good. I mean, I know Geoffrey Rush.
That's what the people don't come here for, but they get for free.
It's in all of our heads right now. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah, exactly. Before we leave this segment, is there a story you have when your preposterous peeve shone the brightest?
No, because it always just ends in pedantry. Nobody cares, like. And I mean, I will admit, it's possible with my whole goal. This goes into my goals, is that I just want people to engage in ways that brings more joy, and that doesn't always happen in the moment. In fact, it rarely happens in the moment. One of my best friends from law school, he is an insano. He is an insane human being. A lot of people, but I was like the best man at his wedding, and I loved him. And he would come to me with these insanely preposterous arguments. He thinks they're serious, but I think they're insane. And I would respond to him, and we would refute it, and we would talk it out. And he would never stray from that point at all. He would be like, I'll give you an example because I'm not saying his name, but he would say, I would sacrifice all the civil rights progresses that we've made in the last 60 years for a 5% bump in GDP, right? That is an argument he would present because he believes that the higher the GDP, then we would come to it anyway, or whatever. But that's an absurd thing to say. It's like, and we would talk for an hour, and he would never relent, and he would just be like, but then a week later, he would come back, and he would have integrated every single thing that I had said to him. And it was clear that he had thought about it after we'd stopped talking. You know what I mean? And that's why we became best friends, because he is someone that no matter how much he sounds like he's talking all the time, it is so clear that he is an active listener and that he is internalizing the things you say to him when you speak. And that's all. Yeah. And that's all we want out of communication, right? That's all we want. And so I would like to think that even though I don't have some sort of really cool story about that peeve leading to goodness, I would like to think that it did. That somebody that I was talking about it with, ended up just slightly changing their perspective on it and just being like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't yell at the next person who uses less versus fewer, or who confuses jealousy and envy, or who, just kind of chill. Or I guess if we're just going to keep going back to this, shut the fuck up, and so I don't know. There we go. That's my pick. That's my pitch, and I'm sticking to it.
Is it mostly? It sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the problem that you kind of have here isn't in the, recommendation from the other person. It's the kind of rigid persistence that it must be this way, as opposed to for instance, if we're talking and you say, one of these banana, less and fewer or something like that, and I go, did you know, or in a way that is less kind of minimizing for the other person's intelligence and more just a kind of hey, did you know this and that, is there an educational way to do this, or do you think by and large it's just a problem head to tail?
You know what? you completely hit the nail on the head. There is absolutely, like, that is exactly my problem. My problem is when people use that as an opportunity to, like, derail a conversation or not actually listen to what the other person is saying so that they can pedantically correct them, especially when they're wrong. But yeah, if it's a conversation, if you're like, hey, isn't it funny that, or whatever, I think that's great. I think that's wonderful, because then it opens up more avenues to conversation. This has actually come up very recently and will probably come up more, in that someone who I've been streaming with, who's also kind of in the law tube family, as they're calling them, that like lawyers who kind of are on YouTube. He thinks that The Last Jedi is an objectively bad movie, right? And many people feel that way. That is, as we know in the last 5 years on the internet, that that is a thought that is pervasive. I subjectively disagree with it. Like, I enjoyed it immensely. I think it's one of my favorite blockbuster films, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But more importantly, the way that you choose to discuss it is just like so wrong. Why can't you just say, like, it's not for me. This. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so interesting because you can see people's inability to say that or think that way. That with, pardon me, I'll speak from a little jerky pedestal right now, but I worked in film for years. I was a film critic for years. I've surrounded myself with it. Like, it is not an objectively bad film. Like, the things try and talk about how, like, oh, it's bad editing. It's like, no, it's actually very competent editing. Like, oh, it's bad writing. It's like, no, it's actually very competent writing. Like, it is it is telling the story that it intends to tell. And there is very few technical impediments to it for your enjoyment of that story, which is kind of the closest you can get to objectively good or bad, is like with art. Is it technically bad in a way that stops you from seeing what it's trying to do, but people are so uncomfortable with saying that this isn't for me, or I just don't like it, that they have to try and couch their dislikes in objective terms that makes them feel like they're objectively right or correct. Yeah. Why? Yeah. Who gives a shit? Like, if you don't like the movie, that's great. Don't like the movie. That's fine. Yeah. Why do you have to come up with this whole argument, like convincing other people who like it that they're wrong for liking it? What is the benefit in that, other than you trying to assert knowledge as a cudgel over other people? There is an incredible way, easy way, as you're saying, Isaac, to talk about why you don't like a film without saying it's objectively bad and like you're stupid for liking it. Yeah. Why don't you just do that? And I think it's all our egos. I get it, but I remember, I'm sure some people listening.
We need to be Superman for a moment or something.
Yeah, right. Look, I remember, I'm not immune to this. I remember in college, Boondock Saints, I hated Boondock Saints with like the passion of 1,000 suns, and I would not shut up about it, and like, guess what? I was wrong. Like, I still don't like Boondock Saints. I still dislike it a lot, but like, what the fuck do I care whether people like Boondock Saints,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, I was clearly in the wrong there, so. Anyway, The Last Jedi is the most important blockbuster, like, studio film. Probably, it might be the last most important studio film ever made. Heads up. So that's partially because of the reaction to it too. It has single-handedly changed how studios will make blockbusters, because of the reaction to it, and also because of what it did. But there you go. Maybe I'll write a one-man show about that.
All right. And before he this wind-up toy goes too far off, we're going to head to our second ad break, and I'm going to scoop up Mark before he goes anywhere too distant. But don't go anywhere, because when we get back, I'm going to put Mark in the lightning round. Geez. See you in a bit. Do you need 100 pounds of butter? Come on down to Company Street Company.
What if I need 30 gallons of olive oil?
Come on down to Company Street Company. But what if I just want one flatless bird roasted for a reasonable price? Come on down to Company Street Company.
Okay, but...
Just come on down to Company Street Company. We have everything for a better price. Free snacks, and employees who don't want to kill themselves. Or you, because we treat them like fucking human beings. Yeah, but... Yup.
Even
Just get your ass down to Company Street Company, where the only sketchy thing we've ever done is enable frozen orange juice hoarders. And we are back. Mark, are you ready to enter the lightning round?
Lightning round?
Whew, ready as I'm gonna be.
All right, put however much time it takes to bake this cake on the clock. Mark, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
Yes.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Do the dishes.
Are soups smoothies?
No.
Vests or opera gloves?
Can I say neither?
That wasn't the question.
Vests.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
No.
Are you out of touch, or is it the children who are wrong?
The children are wrong.
Shakira's voice in Danny DeVito's body, or Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body?
Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body. I love Danny DeVito's voice.
Are we alone in the universe?
No.
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
Oh, both. Fran Drescher. I'm from Jersey.
Would you
I'm
rather...
from Jersey. Fran Drescher. Yeah.
Would you rather read the cue cards while wearing the crown or live in a hovel and speak your mind?
Oh, cue cards, crown. Easy. Done.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
Holy shit, I have no idea. I listen to them.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Oh, another amazing thing.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
Pineapple on pizza, man. Tastes great.
Speaking of things tasting great, could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1 hour time limit?
Yes.
Congratulations!
You've survived the lightning round.
Yay!
Woo! But before we move on to your prize, I, like many of the listeners at home, I'm sure, would like to now know, what is your favorite food?
Probably sushi.
Yeah, that is definitely very easy to eat 37 for $5 grand.
But I'm going to admit, I didn't even think about it at the time. Like, you said for $5,000. I was like, yeah, I'll make it work. Like
Steaks? Yeah, okay. I guess I'm getting gastric bypass tomorrow.
Right, yeah, I don't care. I'll make it work.
All right. Now that you've conquered the lightning round, what lightning round question would you like to ask me and in turn be asked of future guests?
Oh, okay. All right. This is a hypothetical that I've asked hundreds and hundreds of people. Okay. You come across a person in the street. They've just been hit by a car. You go up to them and it's very clear they're about to die. And they look up at you and they say, "This is really important. Please tell my wife she's a dirty harlot." Then dies. Do you tell your wife? Do you tell that person's wife?
No.
No?
No.
Wow. So you're just...
He's dead. He's not gonna know.
But maybe it's a private joke between the two of them.
Maybe it is a private joke, but also maybe, and in my opinion, more likely, he's an asshole.
So,
and that person doesn't need to die knowing that their significant other was an asshole.
Now, I've asked this to hundreds of people, and a lot of people agree with me on the whole, Dirty Dancing ditto thing or whatever of it all. But no one agrees with me on this next step, which is,
okay.
I don't believe we should lionize the dead. And I think that it is very hard to get over someone who is very important to you who is lost. But one of the things that can help you get over that is if you think about them honestly and know that they're an asshole. And so if that person is actually an asshole, then I think that it's actually better for the remaining spouse to know that their person was an asshole to help them improve their life going forward.
So we're going to go like a Punnett square, right? There's the circumstances where in this relationship, the wife knows that they're on the rocks, and there's the circumstances where the wife doesn't know they're on the rocks, right? Of the wife thinks that they're in a good, healthy relationship, and the wife thinks that this relationship sucks.
Right.
So if they think, the way my brain is working is, if they think the relationship sucks, I don't think they need more fuel for that fire, I think they're going to be fine, you know, putting them to rest and moving on their own. If they thought the relationship was good, what good am I doing that person now by telling them that, like, these shitty final words? Like, isn't it better? I'm of the opinion that it's better to live with, like, the, you know, the lie if it benefits you and has no recompense upon, like, its truth being shared, right? It's like, the only thing that happens that if this person thought they were in a good relationship, find out they're not, yeah, they have an easier time letting go of that person, but also now their memory is just drastically, jarringly tainted.
Yeah.
So if we, like, allow them to live with this lie of, oh, I have this loving husband, everybody else, like, looks around like, what the fuck is this person talking about? But they get to live with that and nobody tells them, they're going to be a lot happier. And as long as they don't, like, hold on and be like, I had the best relationship ever, I don't need to, like, go out and seek, you know, another person to live with, which arguably then they get to have that best relationship forever. But either way, I just think they're, like, better off as, like, a human being, is, like, my kind of, so where that's the tunnel my brain quickly jumped down before.
And I totally get that. I think that if you have a totally solid relationship, hearing this information, it would probably be more likely that you would think that this is an errant thought of a guy whose brain was malfunctioning because he got hit by a car. You know, then all of a sudden go back on 20 years of a fantastic marriage and be like, oh my gosh, I was actually married to an asshole. Like, maybe. But I mean, you're right. There's absolutely a chance, you know? And and that's kind of, you know, people answer that question very differently, you know? you are not...
That's a really great question. Can't wait to ask more people.
Yeah, please give me more data. More data. Yeah.
All right. As we come to the end, anything you want to plug, recommend, places people can find you or your content, or shout outs you like to give to friends or family?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think I shouted out my grandpa, my parents, and my sister, and my wife during the podcast, so I don't have to do it now, which is cool. Yeah, exactly. But you can find me, I'm most active on Twitter at MARC CALDERARO, MARC CALDERARO. You can find my game, I Feel Attacked, at www.feelattacked.com. Indie Boards and Cards should be releasing it soon. And I have a YouTube channel that I haven't done anything with, which is called Attractive Nuisance. Which is a play on a legal concept where if you have a playground or a pool in your yard and you know that kids like it, then it's your fault if a kid drowns in it. So obviously they wouldn't drown in the playground, but you understand what I'm saying. So you can find me on YouTube at Attractive Nuisance.
Do you have any people that you'd like to nominate to come on the program moving forward?
Yeah, I do. I think that an incredible guest for you would be my Austin friend, Robert Segovia. We have fights all the time. That man does not hold back on anything that he believes, and that makes him an simultaneously incredible and infuriating person to talk to. And I want to bestow that curse upon you, Isaac.
All right, well, Robert Segovia, you have been officially invited, and I'll be reaching out to you soon. So hopefully... Jeez, that laugh does not sound even remotely pure.
No, he's great. I love Robert. He's a stand-up comedian. He has a theater in Austin.
I feel like I'm being pulled into a very dangerous zone with that laughter.
No, not at all. He might end up arguing on the podcast that REM is the best American band ever. You know, like... That's going to happen. And he's been trying to argue it to me for 15 years now. I still don't believe him. But, you know, that hasn't turned down his volume at all.
Cool. Well, thank you, Mark, for being my guest today. And a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you. Yes, you listening at home, wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our Patreon patrons, Sabella Yellow. And if you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And remember, folks, if vegetables got medals and fruit got all the loot, what then would meat get to eat?